it's much harder to predict our long-term finances here because our budget is based on a volatile tax. It's based on earned income tax, it's based on property transfer taxes, and it's based on local service tax. So when things are going very well and people are working and employed, we tend to beat expectations significantly. But when things get bad and people get laid off and people can't afford their houses, the way it happened back in 07, 08, and 09, you come well under your projections and our budget becomes much less predictable. It's the hardest thing about our budget, and it's challenging to keep track of. So on a year-to-year basis, you could have fund balances that fluctuate wildly. But I think, I will continue to say I would rather project in a way that we feel is safe and beat those numbers, and then deal with long-term moving forward. What do we think is an adequate, appropriate, sustainable fund balance to have, and how do we spend and create a revenue structure that supports that? The budget that you have before you, as you all know, even with the change that we made, is still going to draw significantly on our fund balance, about $700,000. And that is primarily because of several things. We've had changes in businesses, Lockheed Martin that left, and in the end, you can recover some of those employees, but more importantly, earned income tax. This township has had the tremendous benefit, blessing of having a non-resident earned income tax collection that other communities, when I meet with managers, are wildly jealous of. Most residents in Newtown wouldn't realize that over the years, 25 to 35% of our budget, our revenue, comes from people that don't live here. This past year in 2016, the last year we have complete collection in 2016, Lower Makefield residents contributed $408,000 to our $12 million budget. In previous years, Ben Salem, Middletown Township enacted an earned income tax, and as such, we lost those collections. Those two towns took away $400,000 from our budget a year. And as I've said, while we can't predict if and when these things will happen, having spoken to managers and having spoken to people in these other towns, I promise you at some point these towns will enact an EIT. They will have to. And I just want us to be on guard that when these towns do this, they start to dent us. Most of the towns aren't like Lower Makefield. We'll collect $12,000, $15,000, $25,000 from these smaller towns, and we're watching them turn little at a time. Phil mentioned in the previous meeting, there was a town that passed an EIT that dented us about $4,000. That's not significant, but increasingly these towns will do this. It's going to be my job here to keep you in the loop about these things, but there's going to have to be difficult decisions about how we offset that. So it's what we're faced with here. It's why we continue to have the structural deficit here. It's not from overspending. On a year-to-year basis, our spending is very consistent. It's the fact that these other things have happened.